So here in the Philippines, this movie came out in two versions. There was the R16 cut and the R18 cut, and of course I went out to find the full uncensored version. Interestingly enough though, when I got to the mall where they were showing this R18 version, it was like senior citizens get a free movie day, so literally the entire theater was filled with old people. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, I was just afraid they would take the movie the wrong way, because it is an R18 movie, it's filled with nudity and sex and drugs and all this bad behavior, and I was afraid that they would, judge the movie for that. Fortunately, no, they were a good audience. They laughed when they had to. They reacted in the ways that they were supposed to react. And the funny thing is, when I was walking out of the theater, there was this senior citizen in front of me with his friend, and he just kind of goes over to his friend and says, "You know what? My wife's gonna enjoy this movie." And I was thinking, which part? What do you mean by that? So The Wolf of Wall Street is directed by Martin Scorsese, written by Terence Winter, and stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Jonah Hill, Margot Robbie, Kyle Chandler, lots of people in this movie. And The Wolf of Wall Street is the true account of Jordan Belfort, who was a stockbroker on Wall Street, and he pretty much made billions of dollars by completely defrauding all his clients. And the film follows his kind of rise to this infamy, this power, and his eventual decline and stuff. Now, to be completely honest, I have no idea how to talk about this movie. Like, I usually know how to break a movie apart into components and critique it that way. But here, this movie, I just can't really seem to do that. But I do really, really like this movie. I love this movie so much. I just can't really articulate why I love it. But I guess the reason for that is that it feels like everyone who worked on this movie really agreed on the same vision of what they wanted this movie to be. And so, like, it really does feel like a team effort every step of the way. It's like everything that went into this movie was to reach a certain vision, and that's really admirable. So I guess I'll start there. It really is Martin Scorsese's movie. I mean, this has Scorsese's mark all over it. And the great thing about this is that this movie is 3 hours long, and it's so dynamic. But like every scene is so different from the scene it precedes or follows, and it's just this crazy, like almost Alice in Wonderland trip down this rabbit hole, but it's so grounded in reality, and it's so crazy, really. Wolf of Wall Street is like really, really funny, and you can just feel Scorsese having so much fun, and he's just going all out, like he's pulling out all the stops. The way this guy uses his camera and the music, it's so vibrant. Like you really have shots here that you would have never expected. You have musical cues that are that at first sound so left field, so odd, but then he makes them work somehow, and like it really makes every minute of this movie like just it's really interesting to watch. Definitely, though, Terrence Winter's writing is a huge plus to this movie. Again, like I said, they all seem to have a singular vision for this movie. And Terrence Winter's script is just as dynamic as Scorsese's direction. Like these people talk about, a lot of it is really disturbing and dark, but at the same time, you kind of laugh at it because it's just so preposterous. But at the same time, it's just written so well. You don't know where the dialogue's going really, and it's just fun to just kind of watch, and you're in awe of how much control I think Terrence Winter has over like all the little moving pieces in this movie, because there's so much going on, but he gets the humor across. He gets this really dark, kind of tragic side to it across. But of course, like everyone I know who watched this movie was talking about the acting, and Leonardo DiCaprio in this movie, like he definitely deserves a nomination here, and he got it. So good job, Leo. People are so used to DiCaprio being either like the good boy, the sophisticated guy. Like even in Django Unchained, he was playing a very sophisticated kind of villain. Here he's a slob, man. He's a drug addicted, sex addicted slob, and he is fantastic in every single part. I mean, there are things here that you didn't even know Leonardo DiCaprio could do, because like Leo's assets really are like his charm and his way with words, like the way he delivers his lines, always engaging. But you have him doing physical stuff in this movie that is crazy. Like the one scene everyone was talking about was when, let's just say, I won't spoil it, but when Leo takes certain powerful drugs and he begins to experience the side effects of these drugs, like the stuff he pulls off here, it's wow. But still, it's really interesting how he nails all these funny parts, but at the same time, like he can turn on a dime and be like really, really angry and stuff. And deep down, I think he really gets that point across that Jordan Belfort is this despicable character, and that deep down he's kind of like a big baby, really. And it takes an actor with skill to do that. Leo is skilled. And everyone else in this movie is really good. I mean, like this huge supporting cast, and everyone like is really on the same boat. Like I said, Jonah Hill especially, who also got nominated for best supporting actor. He's almost like more despicable than Leo, but like just the way these two characters bounce off each other, like it's just, oh my gosh, like this whole world is so interesting. It's really unlikable, but it's the kind of thing where you just can't help but watch because it's so fascinating. I remember my friend said like she had watched Wolf of Wall Street earlier than me, and she told me like there's this one scene, you'll know what I'm talking about, when like she couldn't believe that Leo could have been sober while filming this scene. Then I watched the movie and I was like, he seems high all the time, and that's skill for me. However, despite all the praise I'm giving, I have to be completely honest with you guys, and I do have one problem with the movie, but it is a significant problem. But the tough part about talking about this problem I have is that it's also one of the things that make it unique, and that really is like the way it's so fast paced and the way it's just scene after scene after scene of like this craziness. I will admit that a lot of these parts were it was quite inconsistent for me like throughout the running time, and I really did not feel that this movie had to be 3 hours long. And I never say that. I consider myself a patient viewer, and I'm fine sitting through long movies, but the way some scenes were shot, in the sense that you have a joke running and then it kind of stays on that joke, or it prolongs the scene where people are just kind of talking and it doesn't necessarily add anything new. Like this kept happening throughout the movie. Like if you had, let's say, 5 scenes that were fantastic, there's always just like one that was kind of weird and kind of like it didn't hit as much as I think Scorsese wanted it to hit. This is kind of redeemed by the fact that good scenes kept coming, and the entire plot as a whole. Like I can understand that this movie isn't necessarily plot heavy. It's very much a character study on DiCaprio's character. But even then, you have certain scenes that I think are there to kind of build Jordan Belfort's character some more. But then again doesn't really add anything that new. So the effect is that it just kind of feels like we're riding along with Jordan Belfort, and that's fun sometimes. But the other times you're just kind of like, can't you do something a bit more fun, a bit more like where I can be involved, and and yeah, despite all the good things I'd say about this movie, and I love this movie, like that does really take it a notch down for me because it kept happening throughout 3 hours. So, however, this is still a great movie. Like if this is still showing, please go out and watch it. Please watch the R18 cut, not because I'm promoting like debauchery and stuff, but this is how Scorsese wanted it to be shot. The excessiveness of the movie sometimes really kind of brought it down. Like I can't really see myself watching it straight for 3 hours. I can watch like certain scenes over and over again, but like the whole thing as a package, it's not as tight as I was hoping it would be. So that does kind of lower it down. However, again, this is a really great movie. It's a super fun time to watch. Like I know some people might be turned off by the character of Jordan Belfort, but really, it's just not something we see very often. Like this kind of filmmaking and this kind of acting, this kind of writing, and it's definitely an experience to see. So go check it out. Okay, so that is my review of The Wolf of Wall Street. I know some people might be disagreeing with me at this point, but if you do agree, if you disagree, just leave me a comment. What did you think about Wolf of Wall Street? Just leave me a comment and let's have a conversation.